everyone, AlphaSoul here and welcome to another video. Today we're going to go ahead and cover the second dev discussion thread that has been put up on the Ashes of Creation forum by Lieutenant Toast. And the topic and the discussion today is going to be on solo gameplay. Now, the question is specifically, how do you feel about solo progression? How far should a player be able to progress as a lone wolf? Now, let me try and go ahead and break up my response to this in a couple things. So, first and foremost, I think you can really only talk about this answer in the context of grouping as well. So there's going to be a little bit of group answers or group play behind. Now, Ashes of Creation obviously is an MMO, right? And I firmly believe MMOs, massive multiplayer online, and then RPGs, role-playing games, are games that are meant to be played with other people. I've said it before, one of the things that I firmly really like about Ashes of Creation is the fact that they are really emphasizing groups and bringing it back to bigger groups, right? So we're looking at groups potentially, or standard groups at least, of 8 people, whereas in most MMOs, we're looking at groups of 4 or 5, maybe 6. Most don't go that high. So I really liked that aspect that Ashes of Creation is bringing, and I truly believe that, for these MMO games to advance, you really should be in groups. But when we're talking about solo play, there is a big caveat, and there's a lot to actually discuss on that. So in most MMOs, yes, I love grouping, but I am primarily a solo player. And I think it's in partial because of the games that I've been playing, and also, sometimes I just don't have enough time to go ahead and group up logically, and so I'll have to group. So anyways, so let's go ahead and just start talking about solo, right? So solo progression to me, and a lone wolf, I think that at the very least, one should be able to log on to whatever game, in this case Ashes of Creation, and make a good amount of progress, right? Without a group as a lone wolf player. There's a reason why I feel that way, because in the ideal world, yes, you will always be grouping with people, right? And you will have a group to kind of go along. But things change, in the beginning life cycle of an MMO, when the MMO first comes out and everyone is there and available and playing, it is very easy to find groups in these early stages. You can pretty much just find a group almost instantaneously in most MMOs that you go through. But as people climb up that level curve, things begin to mature on the servers, it becomes a lot harder to find groups for that lower level content. Essentially, for any MMO, it becomes a lot harder to find content for content that is outside of wherever the natural progression of the server is, right? So if the server has been around for 5 years, then most people are obviously at end game. They're farming different, new raids that have come out, and they're not doing all of that older stuff, whether it be the zones. They're not at that level range, so they're not leveling with people that are, just coming up, unless of course they're re-rolling or something like that. But to a new player, that's a very difficult experience. Let me give you a real life example from WildStar. I played WildStar Release. I quit, came back to WildStar before it was, shut down and went out of business. And I remember I got into the game. I was really enjoying myself. I had a great time, leveled up to max, no problems. All of that was solo though. However, most of the server that I was on, actually almost any of the WildStar servers, were all at endgame, where raids were the thing, where you wanted to raid. So in order to get to the point where you need to raid, you need to do the dungeons. And to do the dungeons, you needed 5 people, to kind of go through, and then you would progress up and loot. At this point, there were no people that were running the dungeons. For a period of 5 days, I essentially logged in, jumped into their group finder queue, was in the main capital, spamming, looking for a group, 2 hours a day, basically. And finally, I gave up. That was more time than I've given most games. So I basically spent about 10 hours trying to find a group, was not successful, and finally, I just had to quit, right? So the base premise of that story that I'm trying to kind of get across is, if people, if you have a group-heavy game, group-centric game, and you say, hey, we're discouraging solo play and we only want you to group, you have to figure out some way to deal with that. Otherwise, your game won't be as friendly or easy for people who are just, picking up the game for the first time to go ahead and advance. And, that kind of happens, within the life cycle of most MMOs. And so it's a natural question. MMOs in the past have solved this many different ways. There's scaling that people have done. There is, Group Finder, obviously, that people have done. There are many tools that have kind of come about in order to combat this and go around with it. So that is essentially what makes me push the argument that solo play is absolutely needed. Now, despite the fact that I'm saying solo play is absolutely needed, what I did not say, and I want to reiterate though, is I do not think that solo play should be equal to group play. I think that if you're gathering 8 players and 8 players are, competing as opposed to 1, I think as a group, no matter what, it should always be more tempting, or there should always be a clear incentive to participate in group play as opposed to solo play, whether it be increased experience, better rewards. I mean, a clear distinction. Some games have kind of done it where they're like, yeah, you technically level a little bit faster, but the difference is negligible. Like, for example, if it would take you maybe 3 hours solo to get a level, whereas it'll take you 2.5 hours with a group. To me, that's not necessarily a balance. Sure, technically, you level faster as a group, but that's not a big enough incentive in order to jump in a group. In scenarios like that, I often just go solo because I don't want to deal with, whatever random pickup group that you have and whatever. You get what I mean. So there needs to be really, I feel, a clear benefit and distinction to group play. Better rewards, better experience, overall it's got to be good. The other thing that I think that has to come along with the group play, and I'm kind of bleeding into that, is that obviously it's got to be easy to go ahead and get those groups. It's got to be something that's easy. So I definitely hold that feeling. And another reason that I'd like to point out is at this point in my life, I am not the spring chicken, if you will. When I was first playing MMOs, I was single, had my own apartment. I could literally just get up, go to work, come back immediately because I lived right near work, and play games from maybe 3, 4 in the afternoon until 1, 2 o'clock at night. Maybe I'd change it up if I was going to go to a bar or something like that, but I had a huge chunk of time. Can't do that anymore. I'm married. I've got a little daughter. My time is split between that. So any time that I get is precious, right? So for that simple fact, I would like, as a solo player, because there may be scenarios where I may not have time to, go into a tavern, get a bunch of people, jump into a group. By the time I finish that, my hour or my hour and a half may be up, and I may not be able to progress. So a little bit of selfishness on there, but that's just how it is, at least within life. So yeah, so overall, yes, to answer the question and just to reiterate the question one more time, how do you feel about solo progression and how far should you be able to progress as a lone wolf? I think that you should be able to progress far as a lone wolf. Now, progress is really where I'm kind of zeroing in because it's not really defined here in Lieutenant Toast's question. I believe that there should be a good amount of content for solo players to tackle and to do, when they log in or go in, whether it be advance and progress. But I also believe that there should be content that is only applicable to group players, right? Raids, things of that nature. You shouldn't be able to raid as a solo player, and raids should provide you with, good loot or, comparable loot to the time. Some say the best loot, whatever. There's got to be that clear distinction. But yes, I do believe you should be able to progress far and have many options as a solo player. So yeah, that's essentially my thoughts, guys. I'm curious what you guys think. Jump in on the discussion. I'm going to have a link down below so you can go ahead and take part of that. But that's pretty much it. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves, and you guys have a great day.